I didn't want to.
Wait, we're matching.
Wait, hold on. We are
Right?
matching. Yeah, we are.
I knew it. I knew you would do it, and I was like, I have to do it too.
Actually really happy that you just could sense it because the thought did cross my mind like, oh, should we like coordinate? And then I was like, I'll just let her wear whatever she wants. But I was gonna wear this. It was this. I also have a couple of Lore Olympus shirts as well, but I just like I specifically told you about the sweatshirt, and so I was
Yes.
like, let me just wear this for our cozy day.
This morning, Josh was like, did I buy that sweater for you? I was like, no. Jillian told me to buy this when it dropped. Did we get this on Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was so excited about that because, I love having fan merch. It's how you make friends in the wilderness, or like how you find your people. And I was really happy because like so much of the stuff is at Hot Topic, which is also not bad. I mean, they've got pretty good sales, and that's when I make a lot of my acquisitions, so to speak.
Hmm.
And like when I saw that I could just get this on Amazon and that it was reasonably priced, it was like $20. And most sweatshirts are like $50 minimum. So I was like, everyone has to know about this. Everyone who needs to know.
I'm glad I was on that list because I got it with the quickness. It was like, okay, I got this one, and then there's a Heroes and Villains merch. There's a long sleeve tee that I have. I have a Webtoon official Lore Olympus shirt that has Persephone on it that I sleep in because it's like very cozy. And then I have a Lore Olympus mask back when we were in the height of the pandemic. And then I have like
That's
pins
nice.
and stuff, and I think that's about it.
Got a lot of pins. I went through a phase where I was collecting the enamel pins, and I do think you and I got the same Persephone pin from Rachel at the very event where we met for the first time.
Yes.
And yeah, I've got a Hades t-shirt, a Persephone t-shirt, two Hades t-shirts actually. Okay, two Hades, one Persephone, and a long sleeve Hades and Persephone that I also got from Comic Con.
Okay, two things. First thing, Comic-Con was so fun meeting you in 2019 for people who are listening. That was really awesome. Like, if Lore Olympus didn't exist, Julie and I would not have a friendship because we would not have met. She was there with Frolic, right? And they were
Mm-hmm.
hosting some panels as well, and they were involved, and Jillian was there, and we met probably the day that I did the moderating with Rachel.
Yep, absolutely.
And
I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know if we want to go from the beginning, or just sort of like be like, yeah, and it began at Comic Con, which is crazy.
In 2019, the LA Comic Con, not the San Diego one. So
Yeah.
bringing us way back. And then the second thing I was going to say is that I wore, okay, I forgot to mention I have a Lore Olympus sweater, the gray one that Hades wears that says Underworld Con, like 96 or something on it. I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
love that sweater, and I wore it to choir because I'm in an adult women's choir. And there was a woman who came up to me and she's like, Lore Olympus, I love it. And I was like, it's working. It's working.
What did I say? That's how you meet. I've been stopped in Ralph's by a lovely young woman who was like Lore Olympus, and I was like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's just I feel like the loveliest people are into Lore Olympus, and so when someone like recognizes that, I actually wore my it was either this sweatshirt or like one of my shirts, but I was in Argentina and a woman recognized it and was like, I know that, and I was like bringing the world together.
It has global appeal. It's amazing. Yeah. So I'm very grateful that we met and we've been friends ever since. And
Yep.
that's 5 years ago, Jillian.
It's crazy because I'm like, no, that just happened.
I
That
know.
literally just happened and it was 5 years ago. And yeah, it was great. We met right before the pandemic happened. And it was because I don't think you were like living in LA at that time. I think you and Josh were in Joshua Tree because I remember meeting you and being like, oh, a friend. Oh, she lives so far away. Like we can't
Mhm.
just hang out. But then you moved back and we can go to in-person things again now.
And the pandemic hit. So we were Zooming. I remember you and I like Zoomed throughout the
We
pandemic.
did. We had a Zoom because I was like, what's she up to? She's my friend. We were in contact. We can still talk to each other.
No, I'm grateful. I'm super excited to talk to you about episodes 268 through 270 today. How the podcast typically works is that I will edit this down to like the most potent, wonderful parts so that we're not rambling. But for my
Mhm.
patrons, I think I might give them the video this time. That's why I put on some makeup. Hi. Usually I'm not
I
trying.
was thinking like, oh, she's really like your makeup looks phenomenal and your hair is all curled. I was like, shoot, you look great.
So I was like, I gotta put on my Laurel Olympus sweater. But because I usually don't ever do the video, but maybe just for the small, the nice, like, here for you people, that'll be great. But for the podcast, obviously, it'll just be our voices and it'll be kind of curated, have some musical breaks in between, all that good stuff. But no, I'm excited to talk to you about it. But before we jump in, Rachel posted an update that you sent to me immediately that
Yes.
Lore Olympus will be ending. The last Fast Pass episode will come out in mid-May of 2024 this year. And we knew it was coming because she announced it at the Comic-Con in October in New York City. But I do think some people were like still like feeling like they were hearing it for the first time, maybe. I mean, what went through your mind, your body, and your soul when you saw that update?
I saw it, I listen to anything Rachel says, and that's why like you're pretty much at the top of my list of people to alert when I see big Lore Olympus news. You know, on the one hand, I can't believe it, like I'm just like it's the never-ending story, I feel like this very much is even though it's like web episodes and it's like I read it for free online, like it's almost like a book series that's been coming out for years. And, at some point the story has to end. And deep down, I do sort of want there to be an ending because what I think is so special about Lore Olympus is you just kind of fall in love with everybody and you fall in love with the world. And there's just so much to dive into. Like, if there were a Sleep No More for Lore Olympus, I mean, I just think like the possibilities of who you could meet and what you could do are endless. And I'll always be grateful to have like this story told. But I'm also sad that like, it's been a big part of like looking forward to having it come out. And, I've got a whole Lore Olympus album on my phone of screenshots that I take that are my favorite things to just like look back on because the story has changed a lot since
Mhm.
it came out. I became a reader, I want to say in like the spring of 2018, and there were like 60 something episodes at that time. And I thought that was a lot of episodes. And then I just like I remember like reading it all in a day and then being like, that's it. I have to wait for the rest of it. So
And look at us now.
look at us now. And it's there's a part of me like the transmedia experience is very much part of it, the looking forward to it, the fast pass experience. But also, like, I think it'll be nice that anyone who picks it up for the first time from this point on will just get to read the whole thing, like cover to cover, so to speak.
They will binge it and have a totally different experience going through. I remember doing that too. I want to say there was like 40 episodes or so when I was like, oh, that's it. Okay, cool. I felt early at the time, but also
Hmm.
I felt like so many people had already seen it, And now look, it's just a totally different world. It's transformed so much, like you said.
How do you feel about its ending? Like, how did you feel? Like, even though, again, we knew it was going
You
to
knew.
end, but how did
It
you
felt
feel
real
about
when she
seeing, like,
posted it.
well, and what else is crazy is she's like at 280, that's the final episode. And, we're here today talking about 268 through 270. And I'm like, there's 10 episodes left.
Mhm.
That's crazy. That's nothing.
It's nothing. It's a mixture of emotions. I'm going to miss Persephone and Hades and all of the characters a ton. I'm going to also enjoy going back and having like the full thing and seeing the full scope of the story all at once instead of
Mm-hmm.
like we're always making predictions, we're always coming up with theories. I won't do that anymore. I'll just be able to have it all. So there's
Yeah.
like a bittersweet aspect to it ending. And yeah, it just feels so final when she has that date set, like it's happening. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's so soon, May. That is so soon.
It is so soon. And it's just crazy to think that for a long time it's been nothing but like open road and question marks ahead of us. And that's going to end like the theories and the discussions are never going to end, which is the beauty of art and reading and literature. But that's it. We will have it all for the rest of time. And I agree. it will be a new experience. I'll definitely like reread it because I've done that in the past, but to have it all, to know that like you could start and that it's going to end at episode 280 and you just have to keep going for this long instead of like how much longer is it going to go? What's going to happen in every episode? Like so there's no going to be no more like mysteries.
Well, hopefully there will be new life with the adaptation. You know,
Mhm.
fingers crossed we get to see it on TV. We get to follow it from start to finish there because that'll be another weekly or I don't know, episodic
Mhm.
series experience. So I think there'll be more life coming with Lore Olympus, but this part of the journey is so special. It feels like it belongs to us. Like Rachel made it for us to look at on Webtoon, to scroll forever. And, I feel like she's done so much for the platform and giving it exposure. And I'm also looking forward to her getting a break. Hopefully there's a break
Yeah.
here for her when she's done, because I think the weekly upload is just a lot of work and a lot of pressure. And to tell a story in this way is it's like TV, but you get way less.
Yeah.
You have to draw it. And so I don't know.
It is a lot of production work that I think most people don't think about because I mean it's twofold, right? Like it is the writing. Like I feel like you and I are both such writers that like, you know that it's special. Like everything that they're saying and doing like really hits home. But then it's also art and it's art that she draws and it's these moments and these glances and these scenes and I feel like it's really hard to balance doing all of that. And yeah, the fact that it goes up every single week is insane.
I know.
It's unreal. She's unreal and talented and
Right.
amazing.
For 268 weeks, 270 weeks, with some hiatuses in between, but that's a long
Yeah.
time. That's why it feels like it's a part of us because we've been reading it for so long.
In real time. And she's someone who's I think is very open about when she needs a break. And like I remember there was a time I think she injured her hand and she was like, I literally can't do this without my hand. So we're gonna take a break and like we've been growing with each other.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, right? It's like, I don't want it to end, but I'm glad. It's bittersweet. There's so much to be happy for and then so much to feel sad about and to miss.
I feel like I'm going to the last Harry Potter book midnight book release.
Yes. End of an era. That's what came to my mind when I saw her post that. End of an era. Like this
It is the
marks a
end of an
very
era.
specific time in my life.
Yeah.
But
But
that
I
means
think you're
yeah.
I was just gonna say, but I think you're right that it's what's nice is it's definitely not gonna be the end of Lore Olympus because I think you and I have seen the series only get bigger and bigger every passing year. It collects more fans as the thing goes on. And I think it's going to get even bigger with the show because then, I think there are a lot of people who would love this if they knew more about webcomics. And I think there are a lot of people who don't think they like webcomics because they haven't read this. I like to say there's people who love Lore Olympus and people who haven't read it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for, when the show comes out. It's just gonna it's gonna find its people.
Me too. Yeah, I 100% agree. Okay, episode 268 of Lore Olympus is called 12 Hours, and we're heading into the end game. Like you can feel it, with Hera and Persephone having 12 hours to get into Tartarus and to fix everything that's going on. And I was wondering, you and I, like if we were to be Hera and Persephone, which one of us would we be?
That's so tough because I don't know.
Do either of us
I'll
fit the archetype of Hera?
I don't like I feel the funny thing is it's like it's hard to say because they're both so complex in their ways and I just feel like I just know Persephone a lot better than I know Hera,
Mhm.
although she has had a really massive arc lately and it's been a lot of like overcoming her trauma. I feel like for a long time Hera has kind of been a little aloof and, very glamorous and very beautiful, but also kind of like untouchable and like as we've gotten to know more about like why she's made the choices that she's made and why like sort of like what she went through with Kronos. I
Mhm.
think she's doing something so selfless by volunteering to revisit her trauma in order to save the world,
Yeah.
basically, to save, or at least, save Hades and Morpheus. I like to think if I were put to that moment, I would like volunteer and do the hard thing to do the right thing. But it's also like the thing, I don't have this, I don't know if you have this, but like she had a vision.
That's
Like
what.
yeah, I think we're sort of getting into this of like she knows what's at the end of this, and it's not pretty. It's awful.
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you think one of us is Hera or
I don't think either of us are Hera. I know I can't
no?
be Hera because if I had that vision, I'd still be like, well, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to die.
I would do the whole Oedipus thing, and I'm like, okay, let's just do everything in our power to prevent this from happening. And she puts on the exact outfit that
No.
she saw in the vision, and that's just so I can only aspire to be that, but I agree. I feel a little more Persephone. I think you and I are a little more Persephone because, even as she's like volunteering, she's like, you don't have to do, like, her husband is trapped in time and she's telling Hera, you don't have to do this.
You know what? They're both
She's,
better than me. I think I'm more selfish than both of those characters. Stephanie
it,
didn't know about the vision, and she's still like, you don't have to do this. If she knew about the vision, she would never let Hera go down there.
no, I think, weirdly enough, Hera was smart to keep that vision to herself
Hmm.
for the most part.
Hmm. But putting
Hmm.
on the same outfit, first of all, I love the outfit. I remember the first time I saw it, I think I was talking to Josh on the podcast, and I was like, it slays. It's so good.
It is, if she were to haunt the world for the rest of her life in that outfit, she would be doing everyone who sees her a favor. Like in life, in death, in divinity, whatever it is, like it's a fabulous outfit. She looks amazing. And it's like it's pants. I thought it was a dress at first, and it's pants and
I know.
heels and
It's
the corset top.
it's so good with the sheer. It's so good.
Yeah.
She's totally accepted her fate by putting that on. And I wonder if there's a part of her that's like, I am tired and I'm willing and ready to go, especially if it means Persephone wins and Kronos is done for.
I think it does. And it's, something that I feel like, Rachel just gives so much humanity to these characters, especially the more you get to know them, that you have to wonder, like, as a god, as someone who just kind of has unlimited time and power and resources, like, what it means to choose your end.
Mhm.
I feel like this is Hera's way of choosing her fate, even though she saw it in a vision, like, she's still deciding to save the world, to save the underworld, Hades, Persephone. Like, I think she's just, if we've learned anything about Hera in the last few episodes, like the last many episodes, it's that she has seen a lot of ugliness. And
Mhm.
I think she's ready to do her part to make it come to an end.
Yeah, when I think of Hera, I see an image of her like smoking with mascara streaks running down, of like she's been
Mm-hmm.
crying. She's been through so much. She's ready for like the suffering to stop. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I love her, but I'm sad and I don't want her to die. And I hope this can work out without her dying. I hope she can like walk into life and not feel all that pain and that burden and that sorrow and that trauma and have a happy ending, but I'm not sure. I don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, let me ask you this, because this is something I feel like we don't really know about Hera. Do we think just because she had this vision that it's going to play out exactly like that, or do you think her visions can be changed?
I think her visions either could be changed or she didn't see the full thing. So, like, we're lacking context. It's probably the second one. If I were to guess, I think like she saw that she's going to be drained, right? And like
Mm-hmm.
she saw that she was going to be on the ground and that a huge Persephone was going to fight. But like, we didn't really see it all. Like, we didn't see like her turn into ash or something and disappear. And even that,
I
I'd be
did.
like, yeah.
I thought she was kind of dusty though.
Yeah,
Like
she's
she
a
kind of, I
little
think
dusty.
it what she did like, and I don't mean that in an insulting way. I mean like she literally, I think, did turn to dust. But I
Yeah,
actually really do like your theory about we only saw like a clip. We didn't see the whole film,
yeah.
and we don't know what the resurrection laws are here.
And we didn't see her memorial, and we did see that Demeter's son back, like not Asclepius. What is his name?
Oh, I
He's
also was
he got resurrected. Hades
he
like
did get
did
resurrected.
something special and resurrected him. So that gives me hope, but I cannot remember that child's name. Is it Demophoon? Does
It
that
is.
sound
It was. I remember like I didn't like it because I was like, oh, it rhymes like with buffoon at the end, and that's not what he is, and that's not what it is. But yes, I was revisiting that episode, and I think it was Buffoon or something
I
like that.
almost said Asclepius, but that's like a doctor who is like Apollo's son. So no, different kid.
Hades did ask Demeter to change his name and possibly his birthday because like no one can know about this, and I would hope if Rachel is going to give us the readers a gift, it's that like here's a case study in someone getting to leave the underworld. I
Yes.
mean, but that's another question. It's like, is Hera dead, or does she get the same sort of life of a mortal where like her soul would be whisked to the underworld?
I don't know. I don't know. I want her to be happy. And
Me
yeah,
too.
she didn't see a vision of like her memorial.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I'm holding out hope that, maybe she'll get really, really hurt, or maybe she will cease to exist and then be brought back.
I
Yeah.
just refuse to believe that she is going to be the kind of dead that she thinks she's going to be. Like, I don't think Dust is the end of her story.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we didn't see what led up to that point. I mean, we're going to explore what happens in the next few episodes, but like, it's, if you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, I feel like everyone's kind of going to be in the spirit world. And it's
Mhm.
like what happens in the spirit world stays in the spirit world.
Mhm.
And it's about like finding a way back potentially. I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny how much Avatar: The Last Airbender comes to mind for me too. When I read Lore Olympus, it's come up before on the podcast.
Yeah, well, with like the powers, and it's just such a great hero's journey, and it's a great, like, everyone should watch the original show.
I agree. Yeah, I love the
Yeah.
animated series so much. Okay, so also in this episode, Apollo has this great plan. I put this in quotes for people who
Hmm.
can't see me. I don't believe his plan is great. I hate him. But
Yeah.
he's like, I have proof that I can cure this plague. I can cure everything. I can use Persephone's powers, and only I can do it. Look at me do it, right? Because he and Oranos had this whole plan. What did you think of this going on in front of everybody? Like he had broadcast news going and everything.
I mean, the people at home aren't can only listen, but massive eye roll to that. And not even a way where I want to play it off. It's just so like he's being such a dictator right now. And also the first part of the word dictator is what he's being right now because the camera is just such a ploy, and Persephone is just such a baller, rolling up in her black dress, in her black sunglasses, does not remove them for anything. Also, just not sure what exactly he thinks he's proved. Like, it's very Donald Trump of him, I think, to have the cameras rolling and then say, I have the answer. And then like he makes this like very fake um effort of asking like, may I touch your arm, like, oh, I'm such a permission asker. And then like light shoots from her arm, and then what happens? Like, I don't think he showed proof of anything other than the fact that Persephone has power, and it's obviously like a very dictator thing, very toxic thing to say. She has power that needs to be controlled by me, for example, Gaia and what is it,
Mhm.
Boreanus.
Mhm.
Same thing happened there, and I can help her, and only I can help her. And also, she needs so much help that, by the way, her marriage to Hades is null and void, and we need to get married. And I just love Hermes and Ares being like, a question for the teacher. What, you just proved that you can use her power. Like, if this were even true, you just proved that you can like control her power. Why do you need to marry her? And then he has
Mhm.
this moment of like, because there's more. It's just going to be a stronger connection if we're married. And it's just so fake and ridiculous. I don't know. What did you think about it?
Such a jump in logic, like you said. Like his plan isn't that great. yes, he was able to show that, like, oh, we can do something if I hold her hand and I grab her wrist and I do this. But did you also notice the blood coming out of his eyes and ears? This is a
I
total
did
risk
actually.
himself. Yeah. And Persephone recently said that she could kill him. I think they said it on a phone call. She was like, yeah, I might murder you.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, and I actually think he can't. Perhaps it's evidence that in fact he cannot handle her power because it just I feel like for the if there's any subplot that's been going on for the longest, it's the Persephone as a fertility goddess subplot. And I feel like for a long time it didn't mean much. Like it actually had more to do with her involvement in the Goddesses of Eternal Maidenhood scholarship program. And now it means something entirely different. It means power, it means control, it means creation. Like per Apollo, like Gaia was the one who like created the earth, created everything, and like is now part of the earth, and like she needed to be controlled. Like I actually think Oranos was really upset that there was nothing he could make, and so if you can't make, then you have to control, and that's exactly what he's doing.
I really like that theory. And I want to share a comment that someone posted on episode 268. Tae Wen Ki commented and said, Apollo is bleeding from his eyes and ears. There's no way that Oranos isn't planning to wear him down with continuous use of her power. Oranos
Mm.
can't just be like, yeah, I want to help you, Apollo, just out of the goodness of my heart. I just want to help you. I want you to be king and ruler. You can rule everything. That's fine.
Yeah, I feel like he's become so blind to the Titan v Olympian rivalry that is not dead, very much not dead. And yeah, I think he's pretty stupid and pretty naive for thinking like it's literally how selfish he is that he like can't imagine a world where not everyone wants him to be in charge of everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And I hated how he chucked Persephone away when he was done. I think he chucked her because he doesn't like her, for one. Like, he doesn't actually care about consent or anything. Like, he just threw her away. But I think he also did that because it was like hurting him so badly that he had to let go. And that was like, like when you get shocked or something, you have to like jolt away and jump away.
Yeah, it's very perceptive. I think that's exactly what happened, per the blood coming out of his face holes.
Right. Exactly. So yes, he told everyone that he is annulling her marriage, which I don't think he has the power to do.
I of all the things to say, on this like it's like I have a cure and also like inserting himself into Persephone's marriage. It's so crazy and all over the place.
Super wild. And then Hera shows up unexpectedly, which kind of scares him, which is wonderful. I love when she keeps him on his toes. She knows exactly what he's done. She knows exactly what he's like, and she cannot stand him. And I love that she also takes a stab at his mother, Leto. I think she said something like, your broadcast is really very tacky, just like your mother. Like, I hope they got that
She's
on camera.
she slayed in this whole episode.
Yeah, I'm a Hera stan for sure. That was really great. And, we were talking about how Apollo really feels like everyone's on his agenda, everyone's on his side. It's because of his mother. I think that's why. Like, she has raised him to feel that way. All of this toxic behavior, a lot of that comes from her treatment of him, I would say. And so I'm glad that
Yeah.
she had a little jab like in there. I'm glad Hera dragged her a bit.
I agree. And it's, Letta's a very interesting figure in this series because we didn't like even, she was not on our radar for a long time. And I feel like the very small sort of screen time that she's had in this series has been very impactful. Like, I feel like Zeus being his father has not been insignificant. Like Zeus has a lot of the same ego issues. And I feel like if he hadn't had a parent like Leto whispering in his ear that like he's the underdog and like he needs to like take over, like, like it's just, she is definitely egging on this cycle of sons killing their fathers for power.
Mhm. And to be fair, though, Apollo is grown now and has been alive for so long. He should just be better on his own.
And he's
Blame
too,
his parents to that full of an extent. Like, come on, man, grow up.
I just think it's not going to happen for him. You know,
No,
like
it's
it's,
not gonna happen. He will
yes,
not
he
be
should,
redeemed.
and it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen for him at this point. He has lived per, what was it? Batman Begins or The Dark Knight Rises. He has lived long enough to see himself become the villain. And
Mhm.
it's just got to end like that. It didn't have to be that way, but he let it happen.
So have you given up hope on Apollo being redeemed, like his character being redeemed and someone likable in this comic?
It has never entered my brain that he will be redeemed because I think he's been our antagonist from day one. Literally, like, he has been our day one antagonist. I mean, I think about that first episode where we met all these characters and Eros and Aphrodite kind of like made that first bad move, but then there's been reflection and there's been like emotional exploring yourself emotionally and there's been apologies and it's just never going to be that way. Like with every passing episode,
Mhm.
Apollo gets more and more convinced that Persephone should feel a certain way about him and that she should want to be his queen and that he should be, it's he has only gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And I feel like the more the series goes on, the more he becomes like Kronos and Oranos,
Mhm. Mhm.
and Oranos. And I don't think he's gonna. No, I think he is one to be killed. He is not one to be redeemed. He's
Nice.
one to be punished.
I'm quoting that. He is one to be killed, not to be redeemed. Yeah, at
It's
this point,
not
all I can hope
happening.
for is justice and consequences for his actions.
No, I don't like. I literally am like, and especially in 10 episodes, what's he gonna? How is he gonna change in 10 episodes that he's going to acknowledge all the hurt that he has caused. And keep in mind, everyone who knows specifically what he did to Persephone loathes him. And it's kind of been our biggest point that like we're familiar with as the audience. Like there's just no he like firmly believes he didn't do anything wrong. And I don't like how can you redeem yourself if you don't believe that you have committed a crime?
Yeah, around like episode 90 something, he and Persephone had a conversation. She was very clear about what happened to her. And that was like his turning point, and he didn't turn with it. He just let it go right over his head. Or he saw it and dug deeper into his own point of view. Like I saw him double down again and again throughout the comic instead of trying to understand,
Yeah.
or seek, like he's just not repentant at all. He does not care. So yeah,
He does
he's
not.
going to be killed. We'll have to see if
Nope.
he's lenient. If he, the thing is, if and when he dies in this comic, I swear people are gonna throw like an Apollo is dead party or something. Like they're gonna be so excited.
I mean, why don't you and I plan? Like, we don't know what's happening, but like, let's be those people. Like, let's post about it online. The death of Apollo. It's gonna be amazing. He's like our Voldemort, really. Like, I know I'm making a lot of Harry Potter comparisons, but like, he is the one who's like convinced. Like, he's just. It's because he's convinced he's right, and it's just not gonna be any different. But yeah, let's explore that as the rest of the series unfolds. This party.
We'll buy a cake. We'll get some cupcakes.
Yeah, I'll love it. I'm really excited.
Okay, and so yes, Hera also in this episode unleashes Ares on Apollo for tricking her daughter. Yes, that was mean. That was a mean trick. And then, yeah, we find out that Hera and Persephone have 12 hours to get into Tartarus and fix all of this. And that's pretty much everything that happens in this episode. Is there anything else before we move on to the next one?
I mean, funny enough, Apollo gives them 24 hours, and Hera is the one who's like, we can do it in 12. And I do love the confidence. And who knows why she sort of picked that moment to say that thing. But, Hecate is basically like, take 30 minutes, do what you got to do, and then meet me at the entrance of Tartarus.
Yeah, very cinematic. Like, all
Yeah.
right, we have a ticking clock here. We've got to get this done. And
Yeah.
Hera did set herself up a little bit with that one. She's like, okay,
She did.
I think she was feeling the adrenaline and feeling like I gotta cut him. Every time we talk, I've got to bring him down to his knees. And that's where that came from.
I agree. And by the way, I agree with it. Like, I would have said the same thing and I would have been like, oh, shoot, no, I actually shouldn't have said that.
Could have used
But here
it.
we are.
Yeah, but here we
We're in
are.
too deep. Yep. Yep. But, I think that's kind of, those are all my thoughts from 268.
Perfect. Okay, 269 is called Girls Trip Part 1. And then like the next one's called Wine Tour. So I thought the next one would be Girls Trip Part 2, but I think we like took a literal detour. And then I assume the next episode might go back to Girls Trip, or whenever we see them again would be a Girls Trip again.
I feel like that's happened. That, like, something that I think is like brilliant and, what would be tricky to navigate about Lore Olympus is like, you've got to show what's happening with everybody. I feel like even though Hades and Persephone are still at the center of this story, we've got to see what's happening with everyone. So I feel like once we're back to Persephone and Hera's point of view, that's going to be Girls Trip Part 2. But Wine Tour is the one that, detours to Hades and Dionysus's POV.
Which I love. Okay, but Girls
Mm-hmm.
Trip Part 1. So we have that amazing outfit that Hera's wearing.
Mm-hmm.
And, she says goodbye to Zeus first. What did you think of her goodbye to her husband of all these years?
I mean, honestly, I'm really curious to see what's in the letter because I feel like she said most of her goodbyes in these letters. But I think it's fitting because honestly, the whole time we have known Hera and Zeus, I wouldn't really call it a happy marriage. I mean, I think they have had love for each other, and I
Mhm.
think they've just gone through so much together that on some level it makes sense that they are married. But I think that she's not going to pretend like their marriage isn't something that it's not. Like, he put her through hell and she knows that. But, she can also admit that they had some good times.
Yeah, she says, I love you, but you've always made me so tired in a way I can't explain. Which I love that piece of dialogue.
It's great because, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. Like, you can love someone and be exhausted and frustrated by them all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, if he just didn't constantly cheat on her, I feel like she would have been happier. That wouldn't have, she wouldn't have been as tired. Yeah, there's a lot. It's a really complicated relationship.
It is. And I feel like, weirdly enough, I feel like all the cheating is part of how massive his ego is. And even though I think we've seen a lot of Zeus being like, I think he's a really funny character, and he's definitely provided a lot of laughs in this whole series. Like, at the end of the day, he's super paranoid and really power hungry, and he's so paranoid that someone's gonna snatch his crown the way that he did to his own father. Even like his sibling, he needed the help of all of the other gods to do it, and
Yep.
he's so paranoid that the same thing is like history is gonna repeat itself. And I think it's really difficult to be with someone who thinks that way, where like their place in the world is top of mind instead of like their wife and family.
There's a lot of narcissism for her to navigate there that would make me tired in a way I couldn't explain to anyone.
Yep. Yep. Totally agree.
And then we got her goodbye to Echo. Once again, wish we could read that letter too.
Really wanted to read that letter. And this one really took me by surprise. Did it take you by surprise?
So no, only because people started shipping them immediately once Echo was presented. So like 3 years ago on the podcast, we were talking about like, is there some romance here between Echo and Hera? And I didn't know if it was a confirmed ship. I mean, Rachel's confirming it now that Hera definitely had feelings for her.
Yeah.
I want to go back and see what episodes those were, but I do remember it being like a thing. People were building a ship. They got their hammer and their nails, and they're like, "We are here for this." And I like them together too. Yeah.
I'm really ashamed to say that I completely forgot all of this. I mean, we talked about this at the top. Like, it's such a long series and so much happens. I feel like there's a lot of episodes that are just filled to the brim with content, and I totally forgot about Echo and I totally forgot about her connection to Hera. So I'm really excited to go back and revisit those like that. And that's part of the beauty of like the story being finished is like now we know that this is happening.
Mhm.
We can go back and revisit those early scenes with a great deal of satisfaction.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I do love this for them that like I don't know because I feel like Zeus loved her the best way that he knew how, but at the end of the day I think she deserves to be loved the way that she needs.
Mhm.
She has needs too and she deserves to have them met and not ignored.
Yeah. I remember in the past being worried because I think in the myths, Echo was like used by Zeus to do something to Hera or something like that. So I remember being worried about her intentions, but I remember seeing chemistry between them. Not, I can't remember the specifics right now, but there was some
Mm-hmm.
groundwork and like foreshadowing to lead up to this moment. And I think it did come out a couple years ago, right? And so if you've been reading all this time, and if that ship wasn't something that you were like, I built it, I'm on it, and then you'd be like, wait, what?
It could be a blink and you'll miss it moment. And
Yes.
I'm really embarrassed to say I'm one of those people. I blinked, I missed it. I'm sorry.
I have blinked and
Um,
missed so many things in Lore Olympus. Even the part where I'm like, I don't even think Hera saw herself. Like in this podcast, I've blinked and missed things already.
that's really funny.
Right?
But I do, you know what? I love this tender moment because, 30 minutes to say your goodbyes, and I feel kind of bad that like Persephone doesn't really have anyone. Well, actually, I take it back. Sorry, because I just remembered, Hera is seeing that she feels like this is her final moments because of her
Final
vision.
goodbye. Yes.
To Persephone, this is a rescue mission, and I don't think it has occurred to her that like anyone's life could end.
Right. They're immortal. She's like, we've got
Yeah.
this. Hopefully. I mean, the thing that she's probably worried about is failing again, because they have not been lucky in these sleep dives. They are traumatic. They go sideways constantly. But with Hera, she put on her dying day outfit. She may
Mm-hmm.
have written these letters before the 30 minutes because, it'd be hard to write
Yeah.
them like 15 minutes per person. You know what I mean? So I feel like she was ready. Did you ever watch Stranger Things season 4?
I didn't know.
Okay. There's like something that I was thinking of that I don't want to spoil it for you if you ever do come across the series.
Spoil away if you like.
People who are listening, just skip ahead like 30 seconds. Okay, but yeah, in Stranger Things season 4, there's a character who believes she's going to die. She's been like marked to die, and she writes all these letters to people. But there's a part of her that really wants to die. But when she faces death, she starts fighting. She's like, actually, I do want to live, and I wonder if something similar is going to happen to Hera, where like conceptually they're okay with not existing anymore. It's actually like depression, a little bit of like, I don't want to be here. Like life is hard. But then when they get met with that moment, it's
Yeah.
like, I gotta fight. I want to be with my friends. I don't want it to be over.
I mean, I do hope that happens because, like we said earlier, I just don't know enough about Hera's visions to know if they always come true or if, by changing her action, she can change the vision. Because right now she's got a very defeatist attitude. I mean, she put on the outfit that she saw herself dying in. She wrote letters to her loved ones and she's using her 30 minutes to make these deliveries. She gets a final kiss from Echo. Like she's ready for her life as she knows it to end. And I wish I knew more about her vision success rate. I mean, I do kind of recall previously, like when she was having visions, like very vague visions about Apollo, Zeus was really critical of her and he was like, your visions are off, you're like not on your game anymore. So, but this was a clear vision. Like this was one that like we saw with her.
Mhm.
And I just don't know how reliable it is.
Yeah. I mean, I read somewhere there's a statistic that many people who in real life are trying to like end their lives at the last moment regret it.
Yeah.
Like not to go like into a dark place, but like someone like I remember reading an article about someone who jumped off of a bridge and survived, and they were saying like the whole time once their feet like left, they were like, "Oh no, I've made a terrible mistake." And I just wonder if there is a part of Hera that will get to that moment and fight. I hope that there is at least.
I hope so too, because she does. I mean, like life, and especially lately, life has been so difficult for her. But I hope that she chooses to fight. I think she is a fighter. The way that she faced Apollo on that rooftop in front of that camera was extremely baller, and I think she could bring that energy into the rest of her life.
Yep. Yep. I'm hoping so too. She's so cool. I
Yeah.
think it's like also like I'm selfish. I love her. I don't want her to go. She's been my favorite character for a long time, or at least one of my favorite characters for a really long time now.
I know, but I also just I don't believe that Rachel would set us up to love her in this way only to take her away. You
Yeah.
know, like she's built her up so much. The walls have come crashing down and we see her for who she is, who she has been, who she could be. And I'm optimist, I feel like Rachel like she doesn't miss, I feel like she's gonna make the right choice.
Yeah. After all Hera's been through with Kronos, like even if because there has to be like some kind of big sacrifice to defeat this really big bad character, but maybe there's a like a, like a way where we lose something, but we still gain something with Hera. That'd be nice.
Yeah. I mean, I won't accept any other ending.
You'll be like, I changed it in my head. This is how it really.
Yeah, well, it's just I don't think that like she would do that. I don't think it would just be dust. I just don't think that
Right.
that's the end of her story.
Yeah. No, just she disappeared into dust and we never saw her again.
Hope you kids had fun and we're just in tears on the floor and can't continue.
Right? No matter what, though, we might cry when we get to the end of this comic. Just that it's
I'll
over.
probably cry.
Yeah, I'll probably
I'll
cry.
probably cry. Like I'll or like just like that heavy feeling that sits with you when something big is done. Like what? This was everything for all of like so much of my 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one thing that Persephone gets in those 30 minutes before they start their descent is that coat that Hades gave her back in like, I want to say 8 or 9, like way back then. He gave her a coat, and people were like, you can't have that coat. That's not appropriate.
I was very moved to see the coat again because that came from their first morning together. Like I was sucked in from that first, I think it was the morning because right, like, Eros and Aphrodite, they roofie her, whatever, gloss over that, and put her in the backseat of Hades' car. He drives home, unbeknownst to him, a goddess is in the backseat. He does the right thing, puts her up in the guest room, and then they spend like the day together the next day. And that was really the seed of their love. And he gave her the coat that he initially gave to Hera and she didn't want it. And Persephone was like, oh, I don't deserve such nice things, but I am cold, like, and to be like brought back to that moment was really special for me.
Something she treasured. It's also white because like she came from something like she's wearing a lot of black lately ever since we
Mm,
underworld. So it's like a piece of her. It's like it reminds me of how she used to dress. She used to wear a lot more white.
yeah.
She got married and started wearing a lot more black. And I wonder, like, will she start wearing gray? Like, what is she gonna do? Like, fashion is so important in Lore Olympus.
That's a really good point that like she really has been wearing a lot of black lately. Like that's her like queen of the underworld guard. Like there was like goddesses of spring white and
Mhm,
then there's queen of the underworld black.
mhm.
And you're right. I think it's not nothing that this is like a piece of fashion from her past, from like the inception of their love.
Absolutely. No, that was a very sweet moment. I also loved it. That's how you know you're in the end game of a comic when you're bringing items up from early episodes, like before episode 10.
Yep, it's all coming full circle.
All coming full circle. And then Artemis and tons of other gods and goddesses show up and be like, we support you. That's why I'm like, Apollo, your plan is horrible. Look at all the support she has. Nobody wants you to be king.
The only people who support him are the titans of his lineage. And, it's just because Persephone is a once in a generation fertility goddess. I was very moved when, and I think it's really meaningful that Artemis, who is kind of like Persephone's first friend, and they obviously had a massive rift in their relationship, and she felt like for the longest time she couldn't tell her about what her brother did. And
Mhm.
the fact that she's like not even remotely standing by her brother and she shows up at Persephone's side in full battle and is ready to go to war for her and her and everyone else saying this is not an underworld issue, this concerns all of us and we support you. It's very moving.
Yeah, I love that. She does have, because when she first came, when we first meet Persephone, she like barely has any friends. She like
Yeah.
is Artemis, and they're not that close at the end of the day. They weren't best friends who were understanding of each other at that time, especially
Yeah.
from Artemis's point of view. But now, look at them now. It's just really nice. And then Kronos was like, Hera has to come through first. And so she does, because she's willing to die today. She's okay with it. She's accepted her vision. She's come to terms with it. And then in some quick thinking, Persephone reaches out with like a trident or something, or she makes sure what is it that she does?
So I think I know what this is. So, because a lot of gods are associated with objects. Hades had a bident, and that's what that big two-pronged fork is. It's a bident.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've watched this Netflix series called Blood of Zeus. It's very good. It's like it's like an animated series. It's a little violent. I am gonna warn you and everyone else. Like it's very good, but it's very violent. And Hades' Bident is like a big sort of like set piece in that show. But I think she literally like conjures Hades' Bident, and so that's like her weapon of choice. And yeah, I don't wanna interrupt you telling what happens
But
next.
I could see that being right. The bident. I've never heard of that before today. So thank you for that new word.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
makes sense because it didn't have three. Yeah, it was a bident. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
remember Rachel Smythe tweeting about Blood of Zeus when it first came out. So
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, literally, it came out, just sidebar, it came out early 2020. Like it was I like the cast and creator interviews that I've seen are completely on Zoom. It was definitely not marketed the way it wasn't really marketed because like that's kind of we all had bigger things on our plates. But it's 8 episodes. It's really good. It's basically like these two guys, they made I think they did the remake of Clash of the Titans. It's two brothers and they're like filmmakers and they made this whole 8 episode series that is very good. It's very epic. It is adult. Like it's not a kid's cartoon. It's definitely, but it's got like the gods and the goddesses and it's sort of like a new sort of like found history of like mythology.
Mhm. I'll have to watch that. I remember
Mm-hmm.
intending to, but like you said, it was the pandemic. I was like, this doesn't seem like a
Yeah.
comfort watch right now. And then I watched
It's
Gilmore Girls.
it's not uplifting.
I literally was
I'll
like,
admit that.
I literally went to Netflix like Gilmore Girls and then watched like
Yep.
7 seasons. Yeah.
Love it.
Okay, so
Definitely
yes,
do that.
she puts out the bident and reaches for Hera, and they both get through the door, and then it slams, so none of their friends can come support.
What's crazy about that is, I think Hera, she knows that Kronos is only doing this for her, and so it doesn't surprise her that she has to go first. I don't think she thinks he's gonna like shut slam the door right behind her. Funny enough, I feel like Persephone reached out the Bident to pull her out to save her, but Hera's like, nope, and she pulls her in, and
Hmm.
so now their entire cavalry is locked outside with no way in, and Persephone and Hera are locked up in Tartarus.
Hmm. Very scary place to be. Now, all we can do is wonder if that vision's going to come true. Or is it like, I'm like, is it like That's So Raven?
I've been thinking of that so Raven kind of this whole time where sometimes they came true and like sometimes she accidentally made them come true and sometimes she made a different choice and there was a different outcome. Like that's the thing I can't answer. I want to say yes. I want to say that, you know, that free will is alive and well in this series, but we just don't know. Unfortunately, we don't know what comes next. Like they've been locked in Tartarus, and then the next piece of information we have is Kronos squeezing the life out of Hera,
Hmm.
throwing her to the ground, and Persephone turning into a giant and going to battle with him. And we don't even see how that ends. We just see Hera like, oh no, like I've died, like the color is draining from me, I'm turning to dust.
Hmm. I'm scared.
Well, like it actually makes me reflect on the first time we were in Tartarus. Do you remember that?
Is that when, okay, is that when we got like the Cinderella shoe moment when Hades came for her and then he like put her shoe back on and I was swept away by their romance?
Well, it's yes, and it's I think about, Minty was like playing a trick on her and she like didn't think she would go into Tartarus even though she led her to Tartarus anyway. So she's looking around and I remember this sort of big realization in that moment because one of the things that's so interesting about Lore Olympus is for the most part it's a very grounded story. We've got our gods and goddesses, but like they it's a lot of the same rules. It's school, it's work, it's love and dating and friendship and all that. It's about that stuff. So it was our first big powers moment, I think, in the series where she essentially created a whole enchanted forest in a place where nothing should be able to grow. So I just want to bring that to the front of our minds
Yeah.
when we consider Hera's vision, when we consider the kind of danger they're in. I mean, I do think a big part of her danger was like she was 19 and she was completely new to all of this stuff, and it was easy enough for Hades to swoop in and save her. But like that's not going to happen this time. Like Hades is not going to come for her. She's come to rescue Hades. Like we don't know when he is. We don't know where he is. And we just have to assume that like she and Hera are the most powerful life forces here.
That's a pretty great parallel that you just brought up, Jillian. Like back in episode like 29 or the 20s, right?
It was
When
early.
I know, right? It was that way back. She was there and Hades came into Tartarus to rescue her. Now she is going into Tartarus to rescue him in episode 269. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's very cool, and I do think it was like the coat coming back that made me think of like our first time in Tartarus.
Our first time.
Our first vacation to Tartarus. And it was scary and it was cold and now she's got her coat back and yeah, it was a very romantic scene, like, and that we were all thinking it, but it's just it has such a different meaning now that we're here and this
Yes,
is our mission.
absolutely. Okay. Do you have any other comments or thoughts on this episode before we move on to Dionysus or Dionysus's episode?
Nope, I think let's get into it.
Okay. Episode 270 is called Wine Tour. We know this little baby is the god of wine.
He's so cute, like the way it's how that's why I'm like Rachel's a phenomenal writer. Like the way that she writes how he pronounces his words. Like she just like so much is accomplished in 1 to 2 little baby words. And I just love it so much.
You need to help me analyze these because I am not, I feel like a rock. I'm so dense. I don't understand what this baby's trying to tell me.
Well, and what's interesting is literally the first pieces of dialogue that we see in this episode are blurred out, like because he's waking up from a nap. Like this is really like from his point of view.
Yep.
He's like a proper like a toddler, like it's like he can't even say word. I'm not really good at knowing how old kids are. I'm just like, can they like talk at 3 or 5? Like what? We like not that it matters because this is like God math. It's not like our year. It's not human years. It's God years. So
Yes.
he's coming out of a nap, and the nannies or are they like at work? I can't really tell, but like the adults in the room are freaking out that Persephone is gone.
Hmm? The underworld is in
And
shambles.
what's that?
Underworld is in shambles.
Underworld is in shambles. The queen of the underworld is gone. And like it actually, I feel like I know so little about Dionysus, like in regards to mythology, that I actually like went and Googled him after this episode because I was like, yeah, what does that mean? What could this mean?
Mhm.
And so his first word that we see is like "finey," and I
Tiny.
wonder if that means finally
Oh,
because we just see that something is glowing, Like we just see glow, and that's all we see. We just see glow, and then he like wraps it up in his little like knapsack that he puts over his shoulder. It's really cute.
I wrote in
And
my
then,
notes, what is in this little baby's bag?
well, and she keeps it a mystery on purpose. You know, we don't really see, but he's so flippin' cute that he like the adult like he's trying to get the adult's attention. He's like I'm just honestly just like scrolling through the
Yes.
episode right now and like reading it like side by side. But he's like, look, like he's trying to like get them to look
Hmm.
at his little knapsack. They don't see him, and so he's got to, you know, do it himself.
Hmm.
He's got this little like branch in his hand,
He's been holding
and
that branch for a while, I think.
I googled it, and I think it's like a laurel or like he did carry some kind of like birch with him. He did like he was no that is like a part of like Dionysus or like a vine. Like it is part of his like it's one of his objects, you know?
It's one of his objects. And back in episode 264, there was a moment where Persephone was holding him and he was really trying to tell her something. I think he was holding up a branch in like every panel. You can see him in the corner, like holding it up, and she's not getting it. And that's when I was like, okay, he's been trying to tell her something ever since like the plague started. He's been
Mm-hmm.
trying to tell his mother something, and I don't know what he's trying to say, other than maybe he has a solution.
I mean, definitely we don't get all of the. We see that he's going to be playing a bigger part in this.
Mhm.
I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what happens next. I was actually like, I mean, I was just reading Wikipedia just to be like, well, what happens? And apparently he did make like a journey to the underworld.
Mhm.
Well, so according to Wikipedia, this is genuinely not a spoiler. I haven't read ahead at all. This is like as far as I've gotten. But as we know, I mean, he is a demigod. He is the son of Zeus. And one moment, one moment. What is her name? Oh yeah, crown ivy and flowers. Sorry, one second.
I can see her face in my head from the comic.
I know. It's like Semele or something. That's
Yes,
his mother's name.
yes.
But like apparently in mythology, he journeyed to the underworld to free Semele from the underworld because we know like I think she died while she was pregnant with him, and
Mhm.
that's why Zeus carried him to term in his thigh. That's obviously when Persephone got dragged into it. So there's a part of me that's wondering like is he motivated to rescue Persephone? Is he motivated to rescue his to Semele? Like it's like a fun sort of like mystery at this point, you know,
Mhm.
like what exactly his motivation is. But he's almost like a little rugrat. Like he's literally riding a little pony
That
with
pony
his little
that
knapsack.
Persephone had, that's the pony that she used to like intimidate Luce, like the two-headed demon creature.
Oh, well, he's still there and he's so cute. He's got like the longest eyelashes. It's so adorable. I completely forgot about
He is
that.
so cute. I didn't notice it on my first read. It was when I was looking back to send you questions and topics for this episode. I was like, oh, that little two-headed demon horse thing. I remember you.
I again whew, over my head, like totally forgot. Um, but it's just so crazy because he like makes this little journey on his little demon two-headed horse. To all like we're here. Like there's Hecate, there's Thanatos, there's Hermes. They're freaking out because Plan B has gone completely awry. There is no king of the underworld. There is no queen of the underworld. There is no Hera. There's no queen of above. We've got Apollo applying pressure from Olympus, and in toddles this little boy who's just like, look what I have.
So cute. And he has a little backpack that has Sully the snake, which is like a bank logo, I'm pretty sure, from the episode back in the day when Mint was like saw her backstory and how she started working for Hades. And Sully the bank snake was like a little mascot that people love. So we're getting
That's
a lot of
extremely
Easter
cool.
eggs.
A lot of Easter eggs, and I'm so grateful for it because there's just so much in this whole thing. But he, I mean, he just like marches on to the entrance of Tartarus, and he's like, wee, like he's just like making little kid noises, and there's like a massive echo.
Well,
And then,
I like that you had "finally" meaning finally, because that's interesting. That means he's been waiting all this time for Persephone to enter Tartarus, even,
hmm
perhaps.
or here's what I thought it was, and like who knows who's right. He basically takes out of his little backpack a bottle of wine,
Hmm.
and so at first I interpreted it once I like saw what was in the backpack, like what the glowy thing was. I was like, oh, is this a special vintage and it's finally ready? Like, has he been brewing something and it's finally ready, and so he can help because he's got a magic potion in this wine bottle?
Watch it be like Rachel's like, "Finally" doesn't mean anything, you guys.
I what? Like it's something else. Like maybe like it sounds like a different word with like a New Zealand accent, and it's like finery. It's like we were wrong, which I'm totally open to. I'm open to being wrong.
Me too. I'm wrong all the time. I think "lek" means look, like you said. I think he says "thank," which I thought was "thank you" at some
hmm
point. And then he said "lek" again. And then
hmm
"wee-oo." Is that just like "wee-oo"? What is
I
"wee"?
mean, in my head, it was like he's making like an ambulance sound, like wee wee, but like there are no ambulances, so I think just like he's still a little baby, he's still like a little kid.
Yes. And that baby drinks the wine.
Pours it down his gullet. Like I'm looking at the picture now, and it's just like him pouring it into his open mouth.
With his little snake-like tongue.
Well, he transforms into a snake.
Yes, some people missed that. In the comments, they were like, "I didn't know what was going on." I was like, it's kind of clear when he turns back into himself that his leg is still in snake form.
Yeah, he like it takes place over like three panels, but I interpreted it as he turned himself into a snake, which is one of the animals he's associated with. Like there's a lot of like snake associations with Dionysus.
Mhm.
Um, but like I interpreted it as he turned into a snake to slither through the entrance to Tartarus, and so now we've got Hera, Persephone, and Dionysus
And
all in Tartarus.
so here's a comment from someone who posted on this episode named Tywin Roar, and they commented and said, "Dionysus slipped under the door, a pantheon of shapeshifters, and nobody tried that. Go, little wine dude, go."
I agree. Go little wine. Like Dionysus is an agent of chaos, and I feel like the more you learn about him in his adult life, the more you're just like, oh, you're crazy. Like he's insane. And but like we need that right now. Like this is not a time for order. There is no order. And he's just doing it. He's just going for it. And I think he's on a rescue mission. I don't know what he's doing if he's not on a rescue mission.
I think he's on a rescue mission too. I think he's had a plan he's been trying to share this entire time. And I
hmm
hope he's like a part of the key that helps Persephone become a giant and fight. I don't know.
Yeah. Kind
She
of
doesn't
like
have that power right now, right? Erebos gave when she was a giant before and the bees came out of her mouth, like Persephone versus Kronos part one. When she did that
yeah.
the first time, I feel like she was like, that was a temporary thing. Like they proved that she can't do that again. That was like she took the pomegranate. It was all wrapped up in that moment, but that's not something she
hmm
has the ability to do. So maybe Dionysus has the key for her to actually access that power since we saw her as a giant in Hera's vision.
I like to think of it as, how in Alice in Wonderland, there's that little drink me and little eat me picnic, and it makes her grow and shrink in size. Like,
Yes.
that's kind of what it means to me. I'm like, oh, he's bringing her the drink me potion, and she's going to grow from that.
No, I love him so much. And I'm excited for him to talk in a way where I can understand him because I feel like he has a lot to say.
Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting about like human years versus God years is like, I feel like they grow really fast and then they just stay a certain age. And it wouldn't surprise me if he kind of has the mind of a man and he's trapped in the body of like a 3-year-old.
That's what's happening. Yes. No,
Yep.
it's so cute. And I did appreciate that he was thinking. He was like, I'm gonna get under this door while everyone else is like scrambling and running
hmm
and not, yeah, other people can shapeshift. Even though we've seen Hera shapeshift. I don't know if we've seen the other, like we've never seen Artemis shapeshift, have we?
I don't think we've seen a lot. I know we know Zeus can do it theoretically. I
True.
don't know if we've
Zeus
seen
can do
him
it.
do
We've
it
seen Zeus do
here.
it as a swan, but
Okay.
yeah, but he's not
Right. Yes.
here.
He's not, he's absolutely not here, but he is Zeus's son, so
Yeah, that's
probably has
true.
some of those powers.
Do you think Zeus, just this little sidebar here, is he gonna wake up? Is he gonna make it? Hera said he was close to dying.
I think he's gonna wake up. I think he's gonna make it. Like, Zeus, in my mind, in this comic, is a very complicated character because I don't think he's evil like Apollo. Like, I think Apollo is irrevocably and like unapologetically selfish, and he only cares about him.
Mhm.
And I do think Zeus loves Hera. I think he loves his kids. I do think he has love for his family. I think he's just very misguided, and he doesn't know how to put others first.
Mhm. Yeah, I
But I
agree.
think he's going to wake up.
Yeah. Okay, so then the next thing that happens is Hades wakes up. Speaking of waking up, a young boy, and he's having like this nightmare scenario with his dad because that happens to Hades all the time.
This was like a very sad second half of the episode. Like, this was very emotional because I feel like the more you learn about Hades' past, the more your heart kind of hurts for him. And like, everyone suffered in that war, the Titans versus Olympian war. Like, everyone suffered, but he really, really suffered in a special kind of isolation. And he definitely got a special kind of torment from his father. Like, his father hated him. And that's really hard to come back from.
Mhm. Yeah. He's not happy that you're a part of this world or that you exist at all. Your own father. That just would be crushing.
Well, here's my question for you, because it's like I was kind of thinking about it. Like, because he's a kid. Essentially, this isn't Hades. We're looking at young Adonius.
Hmm?
Do we think he is actually in his young child body, and he's back in time and like he's as is, or do we think this is like the representation of how he feels in this moment?
I think that's a complicated question because I think it might have been Hecate when she was talking to Persephone, was like, it's not a where they are, it's when they are situation. So I do
Mm-hmm.
think he is back in the time when his father like tormented him, swallowed him, all that bad stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, but here's, I guess, like the reason I ask is because, he's freaking out. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't even realize that he's in a child's body. He's looking for Morpheus. And then this very dark, shadowy red figure appears. Like, he realizes it. He sees his reflection. And then once he sees that he's a child and he's called Adonius by this dark figure, this dark, like red and black figure, like he starts like filling up the space with nobody likes you. Anyone who puts up with you pities you. Like, just saying the worst things. And what I found very interesting about this scene is it's obviously meant to be Kronos, but
Hmm.
it doesn't look like Kronos. I mean, Kronos's MO is his like dark, starry complexion. Like, I feel like that's what it is. So I feel like when I first saw this, I was like, I had this thought of like, I know this is supposed to be Kronos, but we don't even like properly see the face of this person. And I think it's the like just like, I don't know, like the aloofness that really threw me. And what we kind of end up seeing is that it like he was kind of projecting a lot of this himself.
Hmm.
And what I think is like very, like, I feel like I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but what I thought was very beautiful about it is that, everyone, he's just like, you're the god of wealth, but like you're worthless. You're the god of the underworld. The only reason anyone pays attention to you is because like they decided that like the diamonds and rocks that you're on are worth something.
Hmm.
And then he goes after Persephone, and he's like, Persephone never loved you. You snatched like the brightest star and kept her to yourself. And I thought it was so beautiful that he started to like accept those thoughts again. He's like, yeah, oh my god, I am worthless. Oh my god, like I don't have, like, no one likes me. But when it comes to trying to convince him that Persephone doesn't really love him, that's the thing that he refuses to accept. And that's the part where he's like, time out. Actually, this woman loves me and I have evidence that she loves me, and you're not going to convince me that she doesn't.
So powerful and so romantic and sad at the same time. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I kind of feel like it is like Hades versus Hades. Like all of the thoughts he
Mm-hmm.
had, especially pre-meeting, pre being in a relationship with Persephone, like that's why he was with Minthy. Like she was constantly putting him down like this, and he was comfortable in that place. He does feel like he's worthless a lot of the time, but Persephone's been nothing but encouraging and giving him constant words of affirmation and assuring him that she loves him. And that's been the one thing that's really stuck for him here. And so when he was saying, I know she loves me, it was just so cute. And he's also a little boy and he's holding on for dear life and crying. So it was very emotional.
It was, and it really, I feel like what Rachel was going for visually was like all those years that he spent in Kronos' stomach because he ate him. And it's just like it was the worst place he's ever been in his life, just inside his father's stomach, alone, feeling worthless. And he's bad. Like, this is literally his worst fear. This is his worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And he refuses to be put back in the same place emotionally. He, it was almost like a bitter failure on his part to say like Persephone doesn't love you, because he's like, you do not come for my queen. Persephone loves me and I love her, and I'm gonna make it through this for her. And it's just sort of an acknowledging that it kind of breaks the spell, so to speak, on
Mhm.
what's happening. And it's revealed that like this was like a projection of sorts. Like we basically, like he's kind of like spat out of it. He says, I'll endure it for her. And then he like swims to the top of this, like, I don't know, bloody water that's like filled the valley that he's in. And we see that it's like a blue person underneath a sheet, and
Hmm.
it's like walking away from him, and
Hmm.
like it's over. And I'm just like, what? So like it's like it wasn't like real. And so that's why I'm asking like because it wasn't Kronos. So I'm like, is he really a kid, or is he just like putting himself like in the bad place, so to speak? Like it felt like a real the good place moment where she's like, oh, this is torture. Oh wait, I'm in the
Hmm.
bad place. Like this isn't the good place. This is the bad place. And that's kind of what puts it all into perspective.
Yeah, I feel like it's really open to interpretation. Like, first of all, okay, that little kid in the blue, and he was like, that's me, but that's not me, because I'm me. So that feels like in reference, because we've seen that little blue sheeted person before. I'm trying to find
Oh
it.
my gosh, really?
Yes. So
This
like,
is where I feel like a fraud, and I'm like, what? When?
no, no, it's like it was something that I used to think was little Hades, but then I was like, that can't be little Hades because Hades is there. It was just like it was confusing. So I think I'm trying to find an Instagram post where I referenced this little blue character. Oh, here it is. I'm going to show it to you right here. So this little blue sheeted character
Oh.
showed up in, I didn't even put what episode it was. Come on, girl. Okay, so episode 76, when Hades was having a fight with Mint, and I think she smacked him in a hallway, we saw little Hades, and that's actually like a representation of little Hades, right? And then episode
Yeah.
105, once again, when he's breaking up with Mint, little Hades. So I always thought the little blue sheeted character right here, when Hades woke up
Mm-hmm.
from a dream, was little Hades, but it's not because he's right there.
Yeah.
So what it is I'm pretty sure that's Melano, the child deity trapped in Tartarus with Kronos. That child, like who is the child? What's going on? And so she's the goddess of nightmares. And because in the episode where you see her like this, that's Hades waking up from a nightmare. I'm gonna have to find this episode number. I really don't know it.
Well, I love that. Really quick sidebar. Do
Yes.
you know it's her because like you fast passed it, or is this like a prediction?
No, it's a prediction because in the
It's
previous
an informed
It's
prediction.
an informed prediction. And people, when I posted this in March of 2021. And even in the comments here, when I asked, what do you guys, who do you guys think this is? They said, well, in Greek mythology, There's a goddess of nightmares named Melano. So
That's what I love about this fandom. You just need to like like it's almost a rhetorical question on your part, and everyone's like, "Well, actually, I've read everything, and this is who I've squared it down to." And I'm like, "I think you're right."
like
Like, I
shout out
think
to
y'all.
Haylor. Haylor, who commented 158 weeks ago and said, I totally assumed this was Melano because she's the goddess of nightmares and ghosts. And I think her parents are Hades and Persephone, but I don't know. Maybe this is also little Hades.
Well, and if I may, because you sort of like dropped that name in the notes that you sent over, so I took it upon myself to Google Melanoe or whatever her name is. Um, Yeah, and she is very heavily associated with Persephone. And in fact, there's like a hymn that is mentioned in some, gosh, it doesn't say like what hymn it's mentioned from, but like I can like copy and paste this and like text it to you
Yes.
from Wikipedia. I'm texting this to you, where it says like, I call upon Melinoe, saffron cloaked nymph of the earth, whom revered Persephone bore by the mouth of the Caquitos River upon the sacred bed of Cronian Zeus. In the guise of Pluton?
Hmm.
Zeus tricked Persephone, and though wily plots bedded her, a two-bodied specter sprang forth from Persephone's fury. And there's just like a little bit more about it, but I was definitely reading this and rereading this, trying to be like, is there a Lore Olympus prediction to be made from this hymn?
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't have an answer. It's really like it is just throwing that to the internet there if they want to do a little more sleuthing. Because I feel like this is a very informed confirmation that this is like a nymph of nightmares.
Hmm.
And I mean, it makes sense. That's where I like had my good place moment where I was like, yeah, oh my God, this is the worst place ever. Oh, this is a nightmare. This is literally what this place was designed to do.
And
But
that
that's
makes
really jarring.
it's super jarring. And I think before you talked to me about this, I think I was like, oh, it's just Chronos saying his deepest insecurities. But you're right. I think this was all a nightmare, but like, what is motivating this child to do it? Okay, because I'm on episode 259 now, right? Going back
Mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm.
chlorine affection. I think that was the episode where Hades and Persephone had that cute underwater moment.
Oh,
And
love that.
I loved it so much. And so we see her right here. So if you just put a sheet on her, she's got to be.
That's right, because she thought she saw a little Hades,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be
Mm-hmm.
a real M. Night Shyamalan twist if it wasn't Hades. And there's actually like another child that we need to be on the lookout for. I mean, here's my question to you. Now that we've kind of established that there's this like muse of nightmares waltzing around Tartarus,
Yes.
do we think she's going to encounter our ragtag team of Persephone and Hera? Do we feel like she had any influence on Hera's vision, maybe?
Hmm.
I mean, think about it. I feel like, like, because Hera's trauma from Kronos is the fact that he literally ripped her in half
Yes.
and tormented her psychologically for years.
Yes.
And, to have to like revisit her vision of him picking her up like she's a Barbie doll, crushing her and throwing her aside, that's and like her death, like the end of Hera, like that's the nightmare.
Well, I don't know.
Interesting.
I think
I also
I think
don't
she
know.
could. Well, you know that episode that I showed you, which I still don't know the I think it's like 184 or something like that, where Hades has a nightmare. I think in his nightmare, Kronos like attacks Persephone. He wakes up, there's a little blue child with a blanket on top of him. He's like, okay. In that same episode, that little blue child is also with Hera, and she looks around the corner and like that little blue child is there. And that must be the little baby in Tartarus that we see in episode 259. I mean, it might not be, but it seems likely that
I'm
the
choosing to believe that it is.
I'm choosing to believe that it is. And I thought she was little Hades for so long. The first time we see that little child that I showed you is when
Hmm.
Persephone does her first dream dive. Like when we came back from that long
Yeah,
hiatus, that little girl was there
yeah, but she thought it was Hades. She literally was like, oh, it's Hades, like I'm in, like, and she feels like she's trespassing upon his past because she thinks she sees young him, right?
I need to reread because I'm remembering the little girl though being a little girl that like Hades had children in his like happy dream.
Mm,
So like I need to find that. I
yeah.
think it was
I
the, let me see.
Here's something I would like to ask the internet to do for us. Like, more than just a Wikipedia page, could someone literally summarize what happens in every single Lore Olympus episode? Because I find myself facing this a lot where I'm like, oh, what was that episode? Like, I just want to reread that chapter where that thing happens. And so I'll go off of the thumbnail, and I'm often so wrong about what happens. I'm like off by like 20 episodes, and I'm like, I thought this happened really recently. It happened 4 years ago.
there are a lot of episodes, and I agree with you. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, that happened here. And then it's like, nope. And I'm looking for it for like days, just scrolling through, like, where is this thing that happened? So if people are listening right now and want to like give us a timeline, and maybe I'll find a way and some time to do this too, where when did we first see this little girl who we are all assuming is Melano or Melanoe, the goddess of nightmares? Because I'm pretty sure we've seen this blanket from a while ago. We've seen the blanketed person, and that is not little Hades. Little Hades is little Hades. This is a
Mm-hmm.
little girl with a blanket on her head running around people's
Mm-hmm.
dreams. But
Mm-hmm.
we also saw her without the blanket in episode 259, where Kronos says we need a new target, and then we see Morpheus, and that's going to be her new target in the next sleep dive. We see her in full like body, and it's a girl, not Hades. But we've also seen that same person in Hades' dream when Persephone first did her dream dive. But it's really hard for me to find that now as I'm talking to Jillian. But I know that happened. Like it happened. She was like, there was a credit card situation. Like he was at a store with his wife Persephone and two babies, and one of them was her.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about, and unfortunately, I can't be helpful because I also know that happened. But I just and the thing that I also need to do is I because Lore Olympus has changed so much over the years.
Mhm.
You know, I feel like for a long time it was very grounded and there was very little mention of powers or anything. And then when there was that really big trial, that was the where like I feel like the chessboard got shaken up and the rules changed and it became a lot more about powers and like now they're on like this is Inception. This is just like Lore Olympus is doing Inception. And like so we're on an adventure. We're solving a mystery. We're using our magical powers for this stuff. And I think it was around then. I remember it, yeah, because it was Hades being like, "What could my life look like with Persephone?" And it was really, really good.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that little girl was there, the goddess of
Okay.
nightmares that we're assuming is Melano.
Yep.
So yes, and I think I want to go back to 252 real quick. Someone had
Yeah, let
mentioned
me do that.
252 for another hint about who this little girl is. It is like a blink and you'll miss it. You have to be, I don't know how people do it. I'm just glad for the commenters who keep us in line.
I really rely on the Lore Olympus fangirlies to do their thing because, you know, I feel like we are a very rabid fandom. We are an obsessed fandom. And, you know, it's never too much for me. I'm like, please tell me everything. Inundate me with your theories. Like, they're probably more right than one would think.
I
And Rachel reads them. She like listens to everyone.
yes. I
I'm
don't
also like scrolling through the episode really fast looking for the
do.
little blanket girl.
I don't see. Okay. Oh, I do see her at the very end of 252. Little blanket.
All right, hold on. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Yeah, because this is one where Hera's facing
Okay, she's like
Kronos.
fully. Oh, and it says Melano. Okay, that's where it comes from.
Okay, great.
So episode
This is
252, 259, and then way back in the day, there is like a 180 something. It could be earlier than that, where Hades woke up with that little girl on his like chest, leaning over him.
I do have a vague recollection of that. Hold on. Oh, little Dionysus. Little Dionysus is in this episode.
So cute on Hades' shoulders.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. Wow, this is a long episode.
Right?
I love it. I love that there's so much content. Yeah, here she is. Yeah, that's right. So it's like Persephone joins Hades and little Dionysus in the mortal realm.
Hmm.
And then we really like plunge down, down, down and into Tartarus, and we see um Kronos here, see, with his starry skin.
Yes, you're right. That was a good catch that his skin, that's not him. That's like a
I
mold
just
of
I knew
him.
it was like meant to be him, but I just thought like it every chance, because this is such a visual story. I just feel like we have, yeah, this was forever ago. This was forever ago. Yeah, and talking to little, yeah, but it looks like Hades. Like it
It looks
doesn't
like Hades.
necessarily.
And when you take it fully off, she has little branch wings.
So I was wondering about that because when the blanket walks away from him, there's two X's on the blanket's back, and I was definitely like, oh, are those like angel wings or something? But I forgot about these little branches right here. Yeah, and she's got pink eyes. I mean, very similar to Hades because it's like little kid, blue skin, white hair, um, but definite differences. Yeah, this is like her conception. This is like he has created her here.
It's hard because I think it's just like a reveal. I think she's been around for forever at this point.
This is where I actually feel like it's kind of good. Like, I mean, I don't know what this says. That's the thing, is like, so to start with, one big happy family, Greek word. I
Uh-huh.
don't even know it. And then we're going like down, down, down. Kronos
Uh-huh.
reflected. What is this light right here? Kind of like
Uh-huh.
reflected in more Kronos. And then she just kind of, you're right, she appears with this blanket and then it's like
The
lifted off
reveal.
of her, and it's a lot of like this like twin head to head, almost like Gemini thing going on. And like this is like a clear eyes open, this is like Bella opening her red eyes as a vampire for the first time.
After all that torture, she woke up a vampire.
And then it just says Malinois. I think that's perfect, and
I
it's in pink,
think,
which I think means Persephone said it, because
mm,
she's pretty good at like the whatever color is the person, like that's in their little text bubble. I guess like I would think Chrono said it, but it's just like I think that's perfect with an exclamation point.
mhm.
Your patrons are gonna be like, this girl's like I'm like that meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with Pepe Sylvia. I'm just like, ah!
This is how we all are, like zooming in on things. I mean, we need to track when she appeared because I don't, what I'm not understanding is if this is their daughter from that one vision or dream that he had, or did she put herself in that dream as his kid? Who came first? What's going on?
I mean, let's finish out the series.
Yeah, let's finish up
Let's
the
see how
series.
the next 10 episodes go. And if it's still not clear at that point, I say we send Rachel a heartfelt email, her congratulating her on finishing the series, and also like, could you clarify Melinoe or Melino and just tell us like what's her deal? Like, where did you come from? What's happening? What's happening in this section?
Yeah, because I think the clues are all there, but we have to go back and like find them. I think we have
Yes.
to. I'm definitely gonna look for the episode. I'll text you later today. Like I'm gonna look for the episode where she first appears in like the form that doesn't have the blanket, and it has to be in that dream with Hades buying things with his happy family. She is there, but I don't remember what they're saying. I'm sure there's clues. I'm sure Rachel at that time knew she was gonna be the little girl trapped in Tartarus, little girl who's giving people nightmares, little blanket girl.
I mean, what do we think is her purpose, though? I mean, like, we can speculate. Like, I want to know her origins as well, but she does have her roots in Tartarus, I feel like. Like I do like she's a goddess of nightmares. I mean, what do you think the goddess of nightmares, what role does she play in a
Mhm.
dream, in a sleep dive?
A sleep dive. I mean, she keeps you scared and trapped in your worst dream ever.
Is she right about anything?
Hmm.
Is she right? Like is what she is showing you real? Is it just something that has been real? It all, because from this interaction in 270, it's almost like she is literally manipulating Hades Adonius's vision for him to revisit the lowest he's ever been, the worst place he's ever been in his life. But the sort of like cure for it, the thing that broke the spell was him realizing that like Persephone loves him
Hmm.
and he can never doubt her love and she can never doubt his love, and that he's willing to endure this all over again for her. And then it stopped. Like the sort of like liquid blood, it fell away. He was lying on the ground and the nightmare child walks away. Like it I feel like this is a massive clue of like how to defeat evil.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, when they first set it up, they said Kronos has a child trapped in there with him. She must not be doing this of her own free will, if that's how it's been set up for us all this time. And we did spend so much time like wondering who is the child? Who is the child deity? Who is the child deity? And I'm like, I'm mad at myself for not figuring out that it was this little blanket kid. But I just was like, I don't know. Somebody had a
It's
child at some point, and children are born in such an interesting way in this comic. Like
it
Demeter
is.
didn't sleep with anyone. She was like, hey, I'm just gonna like find, was it
Yep.
roses or something? Yeah, find perfect flowers.
Yeah. It's very her skeleton will lie in the chamber forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very Chamber of Secrets.
So basically, I think that's pretty much everything that's happened so far in
It's a lot. It's a
this.
lot that's happened.
We just went on like a bunch of tangents finding her throughout the series, which is really cool. Congrats to the people who predicted this so many years ago. Good for you, knowing your Greek mythology.
Sometimes I think I know about Greek mythology, and I see people like this, and I'm like, oh, I don't know anything. I know what they tell me.
Too. But no, I'm really excited to see what happens next. And I love the highlight of this episode really was the passion of Hades being like, I know she loves me. Like, I know she chose me.
I love you doing it in his little kid voice too.
I hear it that way, like just so convicted, like he knows. And now it
Yeah.
looks like he's chasing her down or sees her. I wonder if they'll be able to have a conversation. We'll get more of our answers about like, I wouldn't mind going back and forth between Hera and Persephone's big fight and Hades trying to get to the bottom because he's got to get out of this probably on his
Yeah.
own.
Well, we've lost Morpheus, and right after she gave herself a hell of a pep talk. She really did give herself a hell of a pep talk, and it totally went awry. And it just you really have to zoom out, and I feel like the rest of the series may very well just be zooming out on this situation because you've got most of the gods and goddesses in the underworld siding with Hades and Persephone, panicking because there's no way they could get into Tartarus, and they came to help and they're completely useless. It's just, as far as we know, Hera and Persephone v Kronos, but also trying to search and rescue Hades and Morpheus and
Mm-hmm.
just sort of undo this plague that has settled in the underworld and could end It's very like we've got to save the world.
Mm-hmm.
The
I
stakes are way up here.
as high as it can be, but that's how it should go out, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's thrilling. I mean, we're really like trying to solve a mystery here.
we are. And just trying to lock in our last predictions for how the series will end. I think Kronos will be defeated. I think Apollo will maybe die. Just gonna throw that out there.
I mean, I feel like they clearly need to like reinforce Tartarus or something. Like like it's so easy for everyone to escape. Like, because it's like far be it from me to question how to kill a god, but kill if they can be killed. And if that's not if I'm too limited in my human thinking to think that that's what's going to happen, like double reinforce Tartarus and just really like lock them away. Like I think they have a lot of wandering freedom here. um I mean, Hades and Persephone are going to get together for
Mhm.
sure. Like that's not a question, and I feel like they've already started to build their little family. Like they're raising Dionysus.
Mhm.
I think this blanket child is going to join the family.
I'll have two
As
kids.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, Hera. Yeah, I refuse to believe that this is the end of her life. I feel like either she needs to die in order to be reborn as something that's not connected to Kronos,
Hmm.
or she will live on in some other very meaningful way.
I think she will
I don't
live
know.
on or like be reborn and be Hera in some ways, yeah, but have a better life than the one she's had before.
Well, and it's like it's funny because I'm kind of like right now they're like solving a lot of like the first part of Lore Olympus was it was a lot of like getting to know people and they were living, for gods they were living very human lives. And I feel like it's just gotten kind of dangerous and it's gotten very mysterious and there's like problems to be solved. And I'm just like, are we going to go back to the before times? Like, is it possible to go back to the before times where like they knew a lot more peace and they had kind of like recovered from the Titans v Olympian war and like that was their new normal? Like, are we going to establish a new normal after this? That's my question.
Yeah, I hope so. Like everything coming full circle. We had another war. Now let's have another time of peace. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? Like, what do you have like one big prediction that you're just absolutely confident is going to happen?
Just that like Hades and Persephone will have a happy ending with their family. She'll feel more confident in her role in life. She's always been so
Mm-hmm.
hard on herself, calling herself like stupid village girl or like I'm just so useless. I can't do anything. I think and my hope is that she ends this series with like Persephone ends with a renewed confidence in herself and what she can manage because that would just be like a complete arc for her. She started off at 19, now she's in
Yeah.
her 30s, right? And
Yeah.
she just finding that sense of self for her would be like my biggest hope and prediction. I think we're on that way already. So yeah.
We are well on our way to just sort of her knowing who she is. And I feel like everyone's, except for Apollo, has like really come into themselves. And yeah, it's funny. I'm wondering if there's any clues that we can take from the beginning that can let us know what happens at the very end. I mean, the first person we met was Minthy when she was standing up Hades for a party. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
oh, are they going to go to another party? But it's going to be really happy.
Oh yeah, it could have like another, it could end with another party. I could see that.
Yeah.
Where Hades
Yeah.
and Stephanie are hosting instead of just being guests.
Like it's a birthday, it's a victory party, it's a wedding reception. I don't know, like the possibilities are endless. But yeah, if there's anything I know, it's that their ending is going to be happy.
So too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's almost over.
I don't want it to be.
I'm like, well, the funny thing is like I feel like, the more episodes there are, the more we can really look back. I mean, you and I are still like we've read this and we're still like, oh wait, did that happen? And there's like, bookending it. I don't even think of it as ending. I think of it as bookending it just so that you can like look at all these people and see how they grow. And, I think that we're never going to be done with Lore Olympus. Like we're not done predicting and we're not done weaving and fangirling and fan fictioning, like what happens. So, on the one hand, I'm looking forward because it's like the end of a race, but also it's just like it's the end of a race, like yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then we break into song.
Then we break into song, and then we get Lore Olympus the musical on Broadway in however many years.
That could
What do I
happen.
know?
That would be a great musical because I just saw Hades Town and I loved it.
You, isn't it amazing? Isn't it so wonderful?
If I were an actress on Broadway, I would want to be Eurydice, and then I would want to be Wicked and like Alphaba and Wicked. Yeah, those are my two now.
I think you'd be a great Eurydice.
Thank you. I love her song Flowers. That's my favorite. I
I
sing
mean,
every day.
her husband is literally a poet, so you kind of already are.
You see, do you see it?
I have no, I totally see it, except like your ending is much happier because of what happens. But it is interesting, isn't it? I mean, like, this sort of Greek mythology resurgence. I mean, in Lore Olympus, Hades and Persephone are very much that we're at the beginnings of their relationship. And it's crazy that 280 episodes and we're still kind of at the beginning of their love story. Whereas in Hades Town, they're kind of the more like older and more jaded couple that's really been through a lot and time has not been kind to either of them and it's just sort of about them finding that again.
It's very beautiful. I loved it. I think the music is
Gorgeous.
wonderful. So we have things to look forward to. I'm so glad you joined me on the podcast today. We had a fabulous time. I'm so excited for people to listen to this. And we love you, Laura Olympus.
We love you, Lore Olympus. We love you, Rachel Smythe. Like, thank you for having me on this podcast. I love your podcast. I love all things Lore Olympus. And like, even if you weren't recording and you just said, hey, do you want to Zoom and talk about these three episodes? I'd be like, absolutely. Oh my God, I'm not doing anything.
Right? We're gonna have to no matter what for the
We
finale.
have to.
No matter what. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yes, thank you so much.